Mr. Alfredo Fred Ayala. Former Director General of Technical Education and Skills Development Authority, TESDA, Ms. Irene Isaac. President Unified T-Fed of the Philippines Incorporated, Father Onofre Jun Innocencio Jr. SDB. President Cebu Chamber of Commerce and Industry Incorporated, Mr. Charles Kenneth C. Cole. President Mid-Tibet Association, John Thomas C. Franco. Professor, Asian Institute of Management, Dr. Christopher E. Monterola. President, Philippine Rural Reconstruction Movement, PRRM, Mr. Edicio G. de la Torre. President, Philippine Constructors Association, Engineer Ronaldo Jun Elefante Jr.
The first political division ever created in the entire nation. He then appointed Legazpi as Cebu's first governor and Capitan General, so that this year, Cebu celebrates its glorious 454th anniversary. Years of Spanish rule came to pass, and the Americans took over. They introduced democracy and ushered in progressive ways. Thus, Cebu's rapid development commenced. Electricity, mass transportation, hospitals, and fine government structures were constructed, like the iconic Cebu Provincial Capital, which was inaugurated in 1938. In 1941, Japanese occupation began. Cebu suffered the brunt of the ensuing World War, greatly impeding the gains of its progress. After the war, Cebu rose from the ashes. Led by a long succession of forward-thinking governors, the foundations of Cebu's steady and unstoppable rise were firmly laid. In 2004, Gwendolyn Fiel Garcia was voted to office at the capital, becoming the first and to date, the only woman governor of the country's oldest province. Over time, Governor Gwen has become the unifying figure for Cebu and the Cebuanos. She rallied all sectors against the move to divide Cebu, successfully preventing the creation of Cebu del Norte, Cebu del Sur, and Occidental Cebu. Since then, Cebuanos have taken pride in a one, united, undivided, and indivisible Cebu, realizing that the reason for the province being number one is that because Cebu is one. This unity was put to the test when the world suffered a pandemic for the first time in 100 years. Led by Governor Gwen, the leaders of Cebu, including the Tri-City mayors of Cebu, Lapu-Lapu, and Mandaue, spoke in unison in adopting a one Cebu Island approach, and these policies greatly deviated from the protocols implemented by national government agencies. She reopened Cebu to tourism activities in as early as August of 2020, when everyone was still cowering in pandemic fears. The One Cebu Island policy also adopted shortened quarantine days for returning OFWs and removed the mandatory RT-PCR tests for travelers coming to Cebu. Equally as controversial was Cebu's move to make the wearing of face masks in open and well-ventilated spaces optional, triggering an ill-advised rebuke from the former IATF composition. Despite the national backlash, Governor Gwen and One Cebu Island stood firm, convinced that they were only acting on behalf of Cebu and the Cebuanos' best interests. Because of these maverick moves, the entire One Cebu Island is ahead than the rest of the country in post-pandemic recovery initiatives, making their vindication in present time sweeter and resounding. Such historic unity that Cebu enjoys under the leadership of Governor Gwen resonated so well with the battle cry of the unity tandem of Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. and Inday Sara Duterte in the May 2022 presidential elections. She rallied the Cebuanos in throwing their support behind the unity, believing that deep-seated divisions in the past have been the primary reason for the country's stunted growth. And the Cebuanos responded to her bidding, delivering for President Marcos and Vice President Duterte the highest number of votes cast by a province in the entire country. Cebu's unstoppable successes are bound to attract bitter enemies and negative energies. Recently, the Cebuano Chief of the Department of Tourism, Secretary Cristina Garcia Frasco, came under fire for a rebranded tourism campaign that was clearly sabotaged by the private firm contracted to produce the tourism video. But Cebu, the premier province that she is, would not take things lying down as Secretary Frasco was beaten to a pulp by online trolls. The mayors of Cebu's component cities and municipalities, including the Tri-City mayors, as well as Cebu's representatives at the lower house, issued a strong manifesto of support for the embattled DOT chief. It created a snowball effect that saw at least 14 senators, led by Senate President Mig Zubiri, all governors of the Visayas regions, business groups, diplomatic community, tourism stakeholders, as well as countless officials at all levels of government and the private sector, issuing their own statements of support for Secretary Frasco. Regaining her composure, she immediately terminated the contract with the private firm, thus ensuring that no public funds were ever spent for the disgraceful production, a decisive move which was heavily praised by President Marcos, who reaffirmed his full trust and confidence in the Cebuana cabinet official. Even national line agencies are seeing the benefits of a united government approach in combating the varied problems of society. A concrete proof of this is the capital's quarterly caravan of provincial government services. If in 2019, when it was first launched by Governor Gwen, the caravan only featured the services of capital departments, now the capital counts as partners the varied agencies of government and the private sector in bringing their services closer to the people. Most recently, the capital's caravan of services welcomes into the fold President Marcos's Descuento Caravan through the Kadiwa ng Pangulo pop-up stores that sell fresh and affordable produce to the Cebuanos. With leaders united in the common goal of uplifting the lives and livelihoods of the Cebuanos, Cebu continues to set the bar high for local governance and local autonomy. With a glorious past, Cebu lurches forward, the prototype after which other LGUs in the country aspire to be like, the richest province, #1 in assets and investments, a hub for education and information technology, center of commerce and various industries, a powerhouse in arts and craftsmanship, as well as the preferred destination of foreign and local tourists, with a people who are extremely proud of their rich culture and heritage. Since the time of Legazpi until today, Cebu is made stronger and more resilient by its historic past, never ceasing to blaze trails for the rest of the Philippines to follow, living up to its reputation as the premier province in the entire country today.
We would also like to acknowledge the Regional Director of TESDA 7, Mr. Ramon Evan Ruiz. Here to give his welcome message is the Commissioner of the Standing Committee on Technical-Vocational Education and Training Lifelong Learning, Congressman of the 3rd District of Cebu, Honorable Pablo John P.J. Garcia.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to thank our host for today, the provincial government of Cebu, led by my beautiful sister. Thanks for lunch, Governor Gwen Garcia. Our Executive Director, Dr. Carol Mark Yee, our Advisory Council for TVET, Secretary Irene Isaac, and Mr. Fred Ayala, our advisory council who have been earlier recognized, and the support staff, to everyone who's here, especially our TESDA, come here full force. Thank you for coming. For everyone here, good afternoon. First of all, I wish to welcome you to Cebu. This is, I understand, ever out of town meeting of any standing committee of the Edcom 2. So thank you for the honor of choosing Cebu to be your venue. And I think it is just appropriate because since we're talking about technical vocational education 1521, if you read his, while he was here, he had to go to other provinces to get their food. And when Miguel Lopez de Legazpi came here in 1565 and set up the base,
co-workers in government, mga kawani ng gobyerno katulad po namin na tumutugon sa pangangailangan ng ating mga learners. Good afternoon, not just a minimum wage, usual graduate would get. So what a college graduate could get after 4 years of education, 4 years of opportunity cost, 4 years of tuition and allowance, you could
The first woman governor Cebu has elected in its 454-year history. The only governor who, after serving 3 consecutive terms, came back for a historic 4th term, and she is now serving her unprecedented 5th term in office. The only public official who breached the 1 million mark in Cebu's electoral history, garnering 1.4 million votes in the 2022 elections, beating her opponent by 1.1 million. Cebu's Iron Lady and the most beloved governor of the people, Governor Gwendolyn Fiel Garcia.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Honorable Governor Gwendolyn F. Garcia.
Thank you very much. Please take your seats. Maayong udto natong tanan, and please continue eating. I have asked the waiters to please get more food and put it in the tables. Kay maiko man ni sila mamarog. Maklaro kapila na ni barog. Please put the food on the tables. Both for the ivory colored and brown colored, because all are pantay-pantay tayong lahat. Oy, patuo lagi mo, ganina pa ko nagsigingon. Ayun, lady raba ko. Maayong hapon natong tanan. Tayo-tayo lang naman dito, kaya sikreto to eh. Tayo-tayo lang ha. My most favorite brother. The youngest amongst 8 siblings. I'm the eldest. There's 12 years between us. So please don't ever make the mistake of asking who's older. It's particularly hurting for him. But you will certainly make me smile. The very active congressman of the 3rd District of Cebu, hailed as the #1 congressman in the entire country, Congressman Pablo John Garcia. The former Director General of TESDA. And I am so glad that you have heard about Sugbo Kahanas. Ma'am Irene. And the chairman of the National Teachers College, Apex Schools and University of Nueva Cáceres, Mr. Fred Ayala. And I was struck by your words, performance-based. Our executive director of Edcom too, but really when I saw him, I thought he was the parang SK chairman. How could one looking so young already be so learned? Dr. Carol Mark Yee. The magic words, performance-based. Over here in Cebu, we say, buhat ang pasultion. Action, not words. So there's synchronicity between all of us gathered here in this historic social hall, right here at the historic provincial capital. May I greet the standing committee members of the Second Congressional Commission on Education and the TESDA Regional Director of Region 7, Ramon Evan Ruiz. I am so glad he has been retained. The TESDA Assistant Regional Director and our concurrent PD, Provincial Director, Flora Rinca. Rani Rodriguez of Region 6. And Ms. Paulette Liu, the Region 7 Chair of RT Regional Technical Education and Skills Development Committee. And all of the distinguished guests that we have here, I'm so sorry if I was not able to call you. Ito lang inilista dito eh. Pero utang na loob, kung meron naman kayong mga paryente dito sa Cebu, sabihin niyo pa rin boto pa rin sila sa akin ha. Of course, the hardworking secretariat and those that are in table-colored brown. Let us all give them a big hand. It is with great pride and pleasure that I welcome you all to the province of Cebu. As you saw in the AVP, we are now celebrating our 454th founding anniversary. On the 6th of August, 1569, King Philip II signed a royal decree naming Miguel Lopez de Legazpi as Gobernador y Capitan General de Provincia de Cebu, and thus was the province of Cebu born. Throughout the centuries, throughout more than 4 centuries in fact, it was a long, long, long line of gobernadores, male governors, until the 1st of July, 2004, la primera gobernadora arrived on the scene. And Cebu has never been the same since then. Well, I guess, especially during those long years of the pandemic, too long. Was it 2 years, 3 years? You got to know me. Because I was appearing on social media, people would make memes out of me, grab my statements, put it on TikTok, and I was generally known as yung matigas na ulo na gobernador doon sa Cebu. Eh, matigas talaga ulo ko eh. Malambot pa ito eh, matagal na itong nabiak. You heard about how Cebu would stand ground and say your policies do not reflect actual realities, and you are causing more burden on an already suffering people. I would tell them, I know. Kasi sa mga araw na yon, I would never use as an excuse, senior citizen na po ako, meron akong comorbidities, and just stay in the house. Hindi. I had a duty to fulfill because I took that oath. And I would go around the entire province. I actually saw what was happening on the ground. And I saw how people would react each time I talked about the restrictive policies of IATF. Well, there are quite a lot of instances when we would not exactly follow what the IATF was saying. I guess the very first volley was when I declared by July of 2020, no more lockdowns. We will never accept another lockdown. And don't mess with us. That has since become a slogan close